Welcome to Build Your Maverick Business, the podcast for underdog, outlier, and renegade entrepreneurs. Brought to you by Strange Creative Studio. If you dream of going off on your own and launching your rebel empire, but don't know where to start, you're in the right place. We'll teach you how to use mindset, branding, and practical advice to build a killer business and transform your world. And now, here's your host, founder of Strange, Alex Pitt.
Hello, welcome back. I just wanted to, before I go into anything else, say a massive thank you to everyone who has listened to and dropped me a note to say how much they enjoyed last week's episode. I have to admit, when I was recording it, I was sat there rambling away thinking, God, I really hope this is useful for somebody. And it sounds like it really was, and it was quite valuable to you all. So really appreciate everyone who has taken the time to listen to it and to drop me a message to say that you enjoyed it. A little bit of feedback goes a long way. So yeah, you guys are great. Now, I have a list of topics as long as my arm for this podcast. There are so many things that I thought I wanted to talk to you all about. So many things that I've learned along the way, which have been really helpful to me. Like we say in the intro, this is all about, mindset as much as practical business advice, obviously with a bit of branding chucked in, because that is what I do. But what I wanted to talk about this week was whether or not you're starting the right business. And now, if you've already started a business, this is still really helpful because, as I will explain, there have been times in my career where I thought I was in the right thing. I thought, yeah, this is the one. I'm so fired up about this. This is how I'm going to build my empire. And it all fell to shit. And it's not because I didn't know what I was doing. It was just because I chose the wrong thing. And for the reasons that I'm going to put to you today, there are a few things that you need to consider when you are deciding which business you want to start. And it's not just around, your expertise. It's not just around the resources that you have. It's really what you're passionate about and what you're going to bring the best energy to. And so I'm going to give you a few questions to ask yourself. And whether you're just starting out or, like I say, you're already in a business and you're trying to decide if you're in the right one, these are a few good starting points. There are a few good things to ask yourself to work out if you're really in the right thing. Now, before I get into the first one, I just want to give you a bit of background on how I came to ask myself this. I've always wanted to run my own business. It was something I dreamed of when I was a kid. I wasn't the little girl who was planning her own wedding day. I was picturing what my offices were going to look like. I was planning my outfits that I was going to wear to that office every day. I was picturing where we were going to have our Christmas party. It was always something that got me so excited. I just thought the dream of being able to be the leader of this thing and have people work for you and create things, because I've always been really creative. All of my attempts into business have involved creativity in some way. And my first was when I was 8. My parents got me a packet of air dry clay from Hobbycraft, the dream. And I made these little teddy bears and themed them on stereotypes of different countries. I called them Round the World Bears. And they were kind of adorable, but they all fell apart within 5 minutes. But, I wasn't deterred. I really enjoyed it and just decided that I was going to put that on the back burner and do something else. Then when I was in my early 20s, I started bulk buying wholesale jewellery and selling it on for a profit. The jewellery was not great quality and it all fell apart. You're noticing a pattern starting to form here. And when I was in my mid-20s, I actually designed my own handbag range, a few of the samples of which I still have knocking around my house and a few in my parents' garage. Sorry, Dad. But I really, really enjoyed all of those businesses, but it was the business side of it that I enjoyed. It was the entrepreneurial spark that kept me going. Now, throughout my 20s, the way that I made my money was as a graphic designer, working in various fashion brands. And in my late 20s, I decided to quit a 9-to-5 and go freelance. And I did all right, I managed to keep myself going for a couple of years. I managed to pay the bills. I did all right money-wise. But there was something really unfulfilling in what I was doing. And that lack of fulfillment, feeling a bit lost, is what brought me to the first question that I want you to ask yourself. And it's a question that a very talented business coach who I was working with at the time put to me. And it's actually one of the reasons why Strange was born. So I was working with this wonderful business coach and told her that I felt a little bit lost. I was saying, I like to design things. I've been doing all right for myself, want to grow the business. I want it to be bigger. I want to take it to the next level. And she said, okay, great. And so she said to me, how committed are you to being the greatest graphic designer in the world? Bearing in mind, I was a freelance graphic designer. It's not an out there question. And I said to her, Natasha, that sounds fucking awful. Why would I want to do that? She was like, right, okay. So that sounds awful to you. And yet you want this to be your career and you want to grow it bigger than it already is. Do you see why that's not really working out? And yeah, that was a huge epiphany moment for me. So the question I want you to think about is, how committed are you to being the best in the world? Now, at this point, it's worth pointing out that this isn't a goal that you should see as achievable. It's not you can only do this business that you have in your mind if you can eventually be the best in the world. It's more around working out how passionate you really are. And one thing that I learned from working with this great business coach was that if you really want to see how you feel about something, take it to the extreme. So in asking that question, in saying to me, how committed are you to being the best graphic designer in the world? It made me realise that no, that wasn't what I wanted to do. And it really made me re-question everything that I had just accepted as fact, that my career was going to be as a graphic designer on some level. Off the back of that little epiphany, I did a lot of thinking, and it leads really nicely into the next point on my list. This question came to me through listening to a podcast that I'm a huge fan of by another coach. I do love coaches, have you noticed? Now, this coach told the story of a client that she was working with who was very lost, didn't know what she wanted to do in her career, didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. She wasn't sure if she wanted to start her own thing, if she wanted to work for someone else. She was just completely flipping out, thinking, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. And when this coach started doing some digging, it turned out that if she really, gun to her head, had to choose something, if there were no limitations at all, she would be a marine biologist. And so this coach said to her, well, why don't you do that? And her response was, well, I can't. That's absolutely not available to me. So the next question I want to put to you is, are you holding yourself back with limited beliefs? Is there something that you would really, really like to do, but you don't believe it's available to you? And the reason I say that that leads in nicely is that when I was discussing my career, when I was talking about being a graphic designer, I thought that that was all that I could do because it was all that I knew. When I started doing some digging, I realised that the part of design that I really loved was this kind of visual storytelling. It was getting to know people and coming up with a way to translate that through design. And that was the part that I was really passionate about. I love creating mood boards and I loved interviewing people and just listening intently to everything that they had to say, and then doing some really deep thinking around it to show how that could play out through design. When it came to actually doing the design, that's where my energy started to drop off. And what I really wanted to do was work with other really talented designers to take all of my ideas and take all of my thinking and bring that to life. But I didn't think that that was available to me because the fear of stepping into that leadership role massively triggered my imposter syndrome. And I remember the first time I ever interviewed a designer to ask if they wanted to be on the freelance roster for Strange, I was nearly sick. I was so nervous. There's no way that this person could possibly want to come and work for me. I mean, who am I? It was the limited beliefs that were holding me back. Not my experience, not my abilities as a leader, nothing like that. It was just the fear. Fear is a bigger barrier to success than failure or inexperience or lack of knowledge will ever be. So really ask yourself, is there something that you would love to do, but you don't believe it's really available to you? And then do some digging about why that is. Now, we're going to come back to imposter syndrome on another episode because that deserves its own episode. That is a big deal. Now, the next question is a simple one, but it's a powerful one. Why? Why are you doing this? Now, Simon Sinek, the author of Start With Why, puts across this really simple but really powerful theory, and you will have heard me talk about it if ever you've done a brand ignition session with me, if you've heard me talking on various webinars or anything like that. Starting with why is such a big deal. So the theory behind this is that everyone knows what they do, what they sell. Whether you're selling gin, skull rings, wax melts, freelance, consulting services, everyone knows what they do. But not everyone knows why they're doing it. Now, if you listen to last week's episode, you will have heard how I dug deep into my own past. I retold the story. I reconnected with who I really am and what I really care about. And then that gave birth to this business. And it's not just I wanted to start a creative agency. It was that I cared about the underdogs. I cared about the weird kids, and I cared about authenticity. And that's why I wanted to focus on that. That shaped my brand. So why? Why have you chosen this business? And what is it about your personality? What strengths do you have? What values do you hold that make you the best person for this job? Now, if you are like me and you suffer from some level of imposter syndrome, that question may have completely triggered you. And you're thinking, oh God, I'm not the right person for this job. There's someone out there that's better at this than me. No, bullshit, right? If you take nothing else away from this podcast episode, let it be this. See, I'm getting up on my soapbox now. There is a reason why you have a spark in you that you want to start something. There is a unique offering that you have that nobody else has. There is a way that you can communicate in the same way that I do with Strange that will stand up and make people listen, that will make people feel seen and heard, and they will want to connect with you and invite you into their lives. Now, it's quite difficult to do that, and it takes a lot of vulnerability and then a lot of bravery to be able to work that out for yourself. But doing that work is really, really vital. It will help shape who you are. It will help shape your business. And it will help you step into what you do with confidence and the power of knowing that you're the right person for this. I highly recommend that everyone goes away and reads Start With Why by Simon Sinek. It is a really good book. Next up, will this business lead you to the lifestyle that you want? Now, if you picture the life that you want to create with this business, now a lot of people I know start businesses because they want the freedom of it, right? There is a trap that you can fall into where you think that you're providing yourself the freedom, but when you actually get into it, you can get really tied down to it. And when you don't work a 9 to 5, you can't just pull a sickie if you're having an off day, because things can grind to a halt if you're not there. So there are different ways that you can create a business. You can either create a product, or you can offer services, or you can build a system where other people are offering services. There's lots of different ways that you can do it. So really picture yourself in that business and how you want it to play out. Are you the sort of person that loves to be really hands-on? Do you want to be in it all of the time? Does the thought of leaving it to run while you go off on holiday fill you with fear and you would just like to be in it all of the time? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that for me is nightmare fuel. I have quite sporadic energy. And I have bursts where, like this morning, I'm feeling really on it and I'm enjoying myself and I'm putting content out there and it's fantastic. I also know that after lunchtime most days, my energy drops off a cliff a bit. And so if I'm always exchanging my time for money, it's quite a slippery slope. It's quite a dangerous game to play. Because if for any reason I don't feel that my energy's there, then the money's not there either. So if you run a product-based business, you don't have that problem. You can sell things, you can make money while you sleep, but then you also have to worry about stock. You also have to worry about, having warehouse space if this is a product that is quite big and you can't just run it out of your own house. It's just worth thinking about how that lifestyle looks. How is your time going to be spent? How comfortable are you with hiring people if you don't always want to be in it? And I mean, that will come. That's something that you can overcome in the future. But do you like the idea of it? Or would you rather just reduce the risk and it just be you? Would you rather sit there at your desk every day and provide a service? Would you rather, just work with your partner? It's really worth thinking about it long term. How do you want that lifestyle to look? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just about working out how viable that is and how much you want it. And funnily enough, that brings me on to my final question. And it's a doozy. It's a big one. How badly do you want it? Now, just know that whatever you do, whatever business you start, this shit is hard. It's really hard. One of the most amazing and spot on, in my opinion, analogies that I've heard for running a business is that it feels like you're pushing a train uphill from behind. And so many people quit before they get to push that train to the top of the hill because it is so hard, because you start to lose momentum, you start to lose energy, and it feels like you're never going to reach the top. But if you stop before you get to the top, then you don't get the absolute joy of riding down on the other side with the wind in your hair. So it is as simple as that. How badly do you want it? Running your own thing is the most rewarding, liberating, and fun as fuck thing you can ever do for yourself. As long as you really want it, you're really passionate about it, and you're willing to do the work and let yourself feel the fear and do it anyway, then you'll smash it. Don't give up. Don't be disheartened. Just make sure that your passion is really in it, and you'll be sensational. That's it for this week, guys. Hopefully that's given you some food for thought, and you're going to go away and make sure that you are starting the business of your dreams. No one else's, just your own. Off you go, build that rebel empire, and let me know how you get on. Cheers, and I'll see you next week.
Building a maverick business of your own. Don't leave your branding to chance. We have a range of strategy and design packages to kickstart your killer brand and help you find your raving fan base. Book a free discovery call with Alex today at strangecreativestudio.com.